What if the deepest layers of the female mind, those impulses, fantasies, and anxieties that she herself cannot fully command, were mapped out by Freud's pioneering investigations? Hidden within case studies of hysteria, dream analyses, and the controversial theory of penis envy lies a portrait of female subjectivity, both illuminating and unsettling. This video will peel back the veil on Freud's most provocative insights into the unconscious workings of a woman's psyche. Freud began his exploration of female psychology at the end of the 19th century, a time when Victorian norms rigidly prescribed women's roles as dutiful wives and mothers. Yet in the consulting room, he encountered women whose symptoms, paralysis, numbness, chronic pain, defied any purely physical explanation. He dubbed these afflictions hysteria, linking them to the Greek word for uterus. In his clinical notes, he recorded how emotional conflicts, especially surrounding sexuality and desire, metastasized into bodily symptoms a woman could not consciously control. He discovered that when societal repression shuttered a woman's erotic instincts, those instincts would erupt in dreams, slips of the tongue, or physical conversion. A patient might present with unexplained seizures or chronic trembling, and only through careful analysis of childhood memories and fantasy life would Freud locate the hidden trauma, a forbidden attraction to a parent, a thwarted adolescent crush, or the punishment of expression. These hysterical complaints, he concluded, were the body's final refuge for impulses the conscious mind refused to acknowledge. Central to Freud's theory of female development was the concept of penis envy. He argued that in the developmental stage around age 5, a girl observes the anatomical difference between herself and her brother. Freud maintained that this discovery triggers a profound sense of loss and inferiority, setting into motion lifelong dynamics of desire and compensation. Unable to possess the phallus, she turns her libido towards securing a relationship with a father or father figure, hoping to appropriate male power vicariously. Freud's private correspondence reveals how troubled he was by this notion, recognizing its abrupt departure from prevailing ideals of innate femininity. Yet he held on to it as a key to female neuroses, jealousy of male privilege, and the drive to prove worth through marriage, motherhood, or seductive prowess. Despite its controversy, penis envy illuminated hidden motivations behind so-called feminine compulsions. A woman's relentless pursuit of beauty, for instance, could be read as a striving to reclaim symbolic phallic power through lofty heels, assertive lipstick, or social influence. When Freud's daughter Anna later challenged aspects of his theory, he responded in personal notes that while some women seem to transcend envy through identification with the mother, many silently carry its residue, manifesting in vanity, perfectionism, or the fear of aging. Beyond envy, Freud diagnosed a deeper fault line in female sexuality, the oscillation between passivity and active desire. In his paper Female Sexuality, he wrote that women often report climax as an event that befalls them, an experience of submission rather than assertion, contrasting with the more self-directed male ejaculation. This observation, he believed, underpinned women's ambivalence toward sexual agency. In countless dream analyses, he found that women's fantasies mixed motifs of seduction and abjection, images of being pursued by aggressive animals or swept away in dark waters. These nocturnal narratives, he argued, revealed an unconscious wrestling with the fear of overwhelming forces, both erotic and social. Freud's notes on motherhood also exposed truths few discuss openly. He observed that a mother's identity often becomes enmeshed with her child's, to the point where her self-concept dissolves into relentless care. In letters to colleagues, Freud lamented how the maternal drive, rooted in ancient instinct, could eclipse a woman's own life projects. Cases of maternal ambivalence surfaced when a mother's exhaustion or resentment could no longer be repressed, resulting in guilt-ridden fantasies of harm toward the child. Freud was careful in his published work to couch such confessions in clinical detachment, yet his private journal entries reveal the shock he felt at the universality of these murderous impulses. impulses no loving mother could admit to herself. Another layer of Freud's brutal diagnosis concerns female aggression and its repression. Cultural norms taught women to be passive and nurturing, but Freud's case studies showed that aggression found its outlet in indirect forms: passive-aggressive behavior, emotional manipulation, or even psychosomatic illness. In one famous case, a woman afflicted with chronic laryngitis had once lost her voice to avoid reproach from a tyrannical parent. Freud interpreted her condition as an expression of rage so taboo she could only channel it by literally silencing herself. Though he later refined his terminology to speak of conversion disorder, the underlying insight remained. A woman's body often carries the scars of aggression she is forbidden to enact directly. Freud also confronted the collective shadow of Victorian morality in shaping the female psyche. He noted that rampant double standards, where men indulged in youthful sexual exploration while women were punished for the slightest transgression, engendered a deep split between a woman's conscious ideals and her unconscious desires. This conflict, he wrote, fueled secret cults of romantic idealism in women's circles, where they traded fairy tale notions of love that both liberated and entrapped them. According to Freud, the dissonance between the fantasy of pure, selfless love and the reality of erotic craving created a psychic tension few could resolve without neurosis. Despite these revelations, Freud held out hope that psychoanalysis could liberate women from these unconscious chains. He advocated for insight as the primary cure. By naming and exploring forbidden impulses in analysis, a woman could reclaim ownership of her psyche. In his final seminar, he described moments when female analysans, upon recognizing a long-repressed desire, would feel a surge of vitality, as though a dam had burst. These breakthroughs, he believed, proved that the unconscious need not command silently from below. It could become a source of creative energy once integrated. Yet Freud's legacy is mixed. Feminist critics have rightly attacked the phallocentric bias in his theories. Subsequent analysts like Karen Horney and Melanie Klein offered alternative models: womb envy, relational drives, and object relations theory that expanded the understanding of female subjectivity beyond envy and passivity. Freud himself acknowledged in private letters that his models were provisional sketches, subject to revision as new clinical evidence emerged. Today, we can revisit Freud's hidden truths with a critical eye. We can honor his pioneering courage in excavating taboo layers of the female psyche while rejecting the notion that women are defined by lack or by the shadow of masculine power. Modern neuroscience and psychosexual research show that female sexuality is as diverse and autonomous as male sexuality, with overlapping patterns of desire, attachment, and aggression. Attachment theory, neuroscientific findings on mirror neurons, and cross-cultural studies all point to a more nuanced picture, where socialization, biology, and individual history weave together in complex ways. Nonetheless, Freud's shock diagnostics remain valuable as historical artifacts and heuristic tools. They remind us that every psyche harbors forbidden currents that defy polite conversation. They challenge us to create cultural spaces where women and men can explore these currents without shame or dogma. By bringing the hidden truths of desire, envy, aggression, and maternal ambivalence into the light of conscious dialogue, we continue Freud's unfinished project, transforming unconscious suffering into conscious, creative life.